Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. We kicked off the day with some very shocking and surprising news. Adrian Wojnarowski, the NBA newsbreaker of NBA newsbreakers, retiring from sports media. I'm Trevor Lade. This is the NBA Front Office Show, joined by Keith Smith. Keith, I was obviously this is something that has been in the works for a little bit because ESPN had a whole piece on this and everything, but myself and I know many other people around the NBA were completely shocked by this news.
Yeah, I mean, even a lot of his ESPN colleagues with some of their responses today, a lot of them are like in the last, especially the NBA side, in the last weeks of vacation here before camps open up in a week or 2 weeks, depending on the market you cover, and a bunch of them were. You could just tell by their responses were completely caught off guard. So to make sure all the details are out there, he's retiring from basketball reporting, not retiring from basketball. He's going to go be the general manager of St. Bonaventure, where he went to school. I saw some people like, wait, there's general managers in college. It's a relatively new position now that a lot of college teams have created with the advent of the transfer portal and NIL and some of the changes to recruiting. It's been something that more and more teams have brought on with the idea of we can't just put all of this on the coaching staff any longer. It needs to be managed by somebody else who can do a lot more of the day-to-day with that. So it sounds like that's what Woj is going to do for St. Bonaventure. I am 100% certain he could have done it at a number of much larger, more prominent universities, probably even could have called any number of NBA front offices and said,
Sure.
hey, I'd like to come on board in the NBA world. As an aside, Mike Singer, who used to cover the Denver Nuggets, is joining the Nuggets front office in a role. He's like the director of insight and strategy or something like that, or intelligence and strategy, I think it might have been. But just as an aside, so we've seen that happen. But Woj wrote in his kind of farewell tweet, I guess, if you will, or his Woj bomb about himself, that he wants to do something that means more to him personally. And clearly his school is something that's always meant a lot to him. So, good for him. That's a life that is tough to lead, being a lead newsbreaker like that. So, congratulations to Woj on the retirement, I guess, but the changing careers really sounds like more what this is. And, good for him if he can find that balance and that he still wants to have.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen it before where reporters have moved into roles in NBA front offices. In this case, it's not an NBA front office; it's a college, but still, this has happened in the past. Lakers, just give me a call. But but no, I look at this, Keith, and I mean, now that I don't want to sound like old man here, but as I've gotten older, the more and more this makes sense. Like if I was 20 right now, if I was 25 right now, I'd be saying, what is he doing? He is insane to be walking away from this. When you really stop and you look at what this job is, you look at what Woj does. I thought what really clarified it, or at least through the reality of it, because it sounds like glamorous. Everybody's waiting for your post on social media, right? Like there's this appeal, there's this power, this magic to that, right? But Shams who's the other big NBA newsbreakers, though, those of you watching or listening to this don't already know that. Shams around free agency shared his screen time, which your phone now tracks. It was at 19 hours.
And he was almost 20.
Yeah, it was up there. I mean, crazy. Like basically he's just not like hardly even sleeping, right? Anytime he's awake, he's on his phone. And that really it's phones, multiple, because they've got multiple phones, constant communication, because they are the hub of all of this information network. And I thought what was most shocking about that, though, wasn't so much that he's on the phone 19 or 20 hours a day. It's that was only an 11% increase over what his average is. So even when it's not free agency and things are crazy, you are glued to your phone constantly. And you look at Woj, he's 55. Think about all the things in life that you're missing. Now, obviously, it has made him tremendously wealthy to do this. I mean, he is a fantastic contract and income and all that sort of stuff. But you think about all the things in life that you miss out on because you're glued to your phone, because you are this conduit for information around the NBA. I understand why he would say, it's time for me to go do something else and move on. And I mean, a huge congratulations to him. And hopefully this, improves his quality of life and everything. I'm not saying he lived a terrible life or anything like that, but I could see where the grind of it, the weight of it the burnout, I think, would be very, very real. At least when I try to put myself in his shoes and imagine what it would be like to really do that.
Yeah, there's been articles written about Woj, about Shams. There was one written about Adam Schefter on the NFL side. Excuse me. And just how much they don't do anything else. Like, that's an awkward way of phrasing it, but I really think it is the best way. Is they are almost solely focused on this. In one of the Shams articles, he talked about how he stopped playing pickup basketball. He stopped going to the movies. He stopped doing like a lot of like vacations that didn't involve like him being able to be somewhere where he'd have signal and those kind of things, because it's just can't shut it off, right? You need to be there for the next story, whatever the next scoop is. Like they want to be involved and they want to do it. And he even talked about how he has this like special case for his phone to shower with his phone, like while he's in the shower. Like those are just, bonkers things. You and I joke around the trade deadline, like, all right, is it safe to shower? Like,
right, we're afraid to leave the house. Shower?
Yeah, we're afraid to leave the house. But for us, it's like those are very much jokes because it's not what we do. We're not reliant upon breaking news for our careers. We react to it. We analyze it more than what we do is break it. So I don't know that the average person fully grasps, like, you commit to this life and this is what you commit to. It's missed events, missed weddings and birthdays, and even if you're at them, you're still missing some of those things because you're getting up and walking away, you're doing stuff. I had a chance to talk to an NBA person who used to break news at a pretty high level, and one of the things that he was telling me was, he's like, when he realized like I don't want to do this anymore, he has twins and missed the twins' birthday party for the most part because he was chasing down a story, one free agency period. And it was like, that's, and then he was like, you can imagine what problems that caused at home. And then it was like, yeah, I can't be doing this. This is not, how I want to live, and stepped away and backed away from breaking news and all that stuff. So it really is a spot where if you're going to commit to it, man, you got to really commit to doing this. And Woj did it for, decades ish, or so, like really coming to prominence. And it's changed, obviously, right? Because it used to be you're going to break news through getting it in that night's to the newspaper that night, so it'll be in the next morning's paper and those kind of things. Well, now it's an immediate, and they all know how it works. You don't get it, the next guy will.
Yep.
They'll just go to the next person on the list and give it to them. And it's a different kind of world, different kind of life than, a lot of people want to live in. And I really am. I'm happy for him. I hope he, now what he's doing, like he said, he wants something with more personal meaning. I can't imagine a way that it can be more personal than basketball, where he went to college. Like that's got to be huge for him. So that sounds amazing.
Yeah, I can kind of compare it to what like you and I do to a degree. So I can at least understand kind of where he's coming from with, hey, I'm ready to step away from this. But because you and I have both had situations before, plenty of times where, I mean, look, I'm not complaining because we get to talk about basketball for a living, and I can't complain about that. But we both had situations where we get pulled away from family stuff because something happens. Oh, shoot, it's 4th of July and this trade just went down. Bye-bye barbecue. That's the way that it goes. But again, there's a lot of pros that come with it, but you can see where Woj deals with that times 10, right? In terms of how
Times like
absorbing.
$1 billion.
Yeah, right. I mean,
Yeah.
how absorbing that this is for life. Now, Keith, what I do want to talk about too, though, is in addition to congrats to Woj, and that's phenomenal that he's able to step away and all of that. This now leaves a power vacuum in the NBA, and I'm curious to see what happens here because what a lot of people think about Woj, we think about the fan side of it. What does Woj provide? Well, Woj peels back the curtain. Woj tells us what's going on. Okay, this is what's happening, and this is what's happening here and there and all these places, and there's this rumor and that rumor and all of that. That's not just what Woj does, though. That's just what most fans see. Woj also acts as a go-between for a lot of teams in this information marketplace. Woj is he's like his own information economy. So what happens now? Because I know there's still Shams out there. I know Shams has his contract coming up, which makes me wonder what's going to happen with that. I feel like that's not a coincidence. Like there's something there. But the bottom line is that this sport for the last however many years has operated with two primary newsbreakers, Woj and Shams. And their competition has been part of the game within the game. What happens with this power vacuum now? Do we see one person step up and become the next Woj? Does Shams become Woj and someone steps up to fill the Shams kind of role? Or is it multiple people? Where does this go in terms of NBA newsbreaking? I'm really curious to see how this plays out, Keith.
Yeah, I mean, it could be Shams. Like, clearly Shams will step into the primary newsbreaker role.
Yeah.
I almost think that's a guarantee. He's already there. To your point about his contract, we also have the fact that NBC and Amazon are getting in the game now. NBC has continued to cover the NBA, as I know, because I once worked there. But it's a little bit different between covering it when it's not one of the sports you own rights for and owning rights for it. Clearly, both those groups are going to be putting together, pregame, postgame, studio show teams, all that stuff. They're going to have their game coverage teams, and presumably a part of what they will have is some form of news person there that does that. That's been a big part of what Woj has done. Shams does that now, kind of more on a independent basis, I guess is the best way to phrase that. He's not attached to a big network in terms of on-camera news breaking. That's done through like FanDuel, I think he works with, and then Stadium he used to be with, and AT&T, and things like that. So you definitely think you're going to see him be more prominent somewhere. So, yeah, I'm sure he's sitting there right now along with his agent are like, well, this is good for us. Can kind of name my price, right? Like I'm the number one guy. But then who's next? Who knows, right? Like there are a lot of people doing really good work, just not on the scale of Woj and Shams. Now, is that because they didn't need to be? Because they like teams had Woj and Shams to do that with? Like there's that. Maybe there is the idea of maybe they don't want to. Maybe they don't want to live that life, where it is 24/7, 365. I'm attached to my phone. So we're going to see where this goes from here. But I think what's going to be really kind of interesting is there was a time when it was Woj, and then there was a whole lot of people that would get like all the other stories, right? Woj was doing the big stuff. Then everybody else was getting all the other stories. And a lot of that was local beat writers, that they were the ones handling it and all that. And this was in a world pre-Twitter because it was kind of hard to track some of this down. You had to look for multiple sources. That's where some of the better places that became like aggregation outlets became really valuable because they were going to not necessarily Twitter, but to like the newspaper sites 7, 8, 9, 10 times a day in seeing is there anything new, what is out there with that. So we're certainly not going to go back, right? Because now we have social media. It can all be immediate. But do people start using their local beat guys more? Part of the reason that got phased out is they're focused on that team, right? They're focused on the Boston Celtics, the Los Angeles Lakers. Like that's they don't necessarily always have the contacts league wide to know, hey, what's happening between Orlando and Charlotte, right? So that becomes the other piece there where the national guys do. ESPN has a ton of talented people in house that I'm sure if they want it, they could maybe go to one of them. There's a whole lot of other people. I don't want to just start naming people off because part of it is we'll forget someone and then like it feels
and then it'll
crap.
be. But what about
and it's not out of any sense of malice or dislike for their work. I think you guys all know. You see who we reference reports from. You see who we retweet. You see who we've talked to on the show at times. But yes, my guess is somebody steps in to be kind of the challenger, because if nothing else, you need that to keep the top dog on their toes, right? To know like, hey, you got to stay locked in, because if you don't, we'll start going to this guy. So I'm really curious to see how that all develops. It's going to be a little bit of a different world. My fear is we're now going to have. I think we're going to see two things happen. One, we're going to see the 50 million fake Woj accounts turn into, well, now just make up a name, grab a stock photo, and turn into a newsbreaker, right? And that'll be fake garbage. Yeah. But I think we're also going to see, because we see this every year during free agency, the trade deadline and things, legitimate people who fancy themselves as I can do that job are going to try to push their way in. And that rarely ever goes well. We could spend hours telling cautionary tales on some of the people like that. And that is, that's a thing I'm a little worried about, because for people like you and I, that turns into a whole lot of people tagging us, forwarding us, sending us things on our live shows asking, hey, just saw a tweet from, Joe Johnson saying, this is going on out there. What's the deal with, with this? And it's like, what news has that person ever broken? And that's not gatekeeping. People always accuse it of that. And everybody starts somewhere, but it's like, it takes a while. You're not going to walk into, hey, I'm breaking the news that, the Lakers are trading LeBron James.
Right.
Like no one's walking into that story as their first thing out of the gate. That's going to be broken by somebody, probably very likely with, a track record and a history, at least trustworthiness with that. So those are the things I'm a little worried about. Is I think we're going to go through a period here where there's just going to be a lot of filtering through. All I will say is thankfully this happened now when there isn't a ton of news, ton of transactional news and the like with that. Last thing I'll finish with, because I saw some of this going around social media in the wake of Woj's announcement, was, do we really need these guys? Like, can't we just find out from the teams? You can, 100%. You can.
Teams won't give you everything.
And the teams are only going to tell you, we signed player X.
Yep.
And they're going to tell you they signed player X days, weeks, months after they agreed to it. There are a ton of Exhibit 10 training camp contracts being signed right now, some of which were shared at the draft on the evening of the second night of the draft that are just going finalized now, that the teams are only just now acknowledging. Teams are not going to tell you length of deal and contracts. Yeah, we'll get them. I know where I live, I'll get them, right? That's part of what I do, is hunting that information down for Spot Track. But here's the other thing. The teams need this too, because the teams want to know on June 30th at 6 p.m. Who are the Philadelphia 76ers spending a large chunk of that 60 plus million in cap space on. What's going on there? Oh, they're not spending on this guy? Great. That means maybe he's in play. Or they are spending on this guy. That means we're not getting him. So let's pivot to this guy. And they don't get it through calling up the team. Nobody else called up Philly and said, hey, you getting Paul George? And probably got a very straight answer, right? It's probably, yeah, we're trying, we're having a conversation,
right?
But that's where they need those newsbreakers too, to be part of this. I personally, as long as I could do without the whole Trevor Lane signing with the Los Angeles Lakers, sources, his agent, Keith Smith, tells ESPN or tells The Athletic or tells whoever. Like that part, and I get why they do it. I get why it's done that way. I could do without all that, but I want to know, that signing's happening. Awesome. Great. How much? How much was it for? Because then that allows to do the rest of the work that we need to do it. So if you just want to wait for team press releases, I don't have any issue with that. If that's how you want to do it, I don't care if you want to turn on opening night and be like, holy crap, here's what the roster is. Wow, like, and be fine. Consume it the way you want to consume it. Just know we're not going back to the old days, and someone else will emerge.
Absolutely. So to give kind of everybody a sense of at least the way I view kind of what we do, what Woj does, kind of the hierarchy and all of this. And you're absolutely right. Well, a lot of teams get their information from Woj, from Shams. That kind of stuff certainly matters. It's part of the information network and everything. But essentially, the way I look at things is you take um, a team will say we've signed player X. Terms of the contract are not disclosed, right? They're not going to disclose anything. They're not going to, and they may tell you a week after the fact. They're not going to tell you anything more than they absolutely have to, if that, right? Like that's the way teams are going to approach their moves, free agency, trades, all that sort of stuff. You're not going to find out till well after the fact. What Woj will do and Shams will do is he'll put out, like you said, so and so agent has signed this player to this contract or whatever, and there is a little bit of that gets a bit unseemly where you can tell there's different things that Woj has written where you can tell, okay, he's doing a favor for this person. He's putting this information out there to help this person's cause or whatever. And that's part of the game. Hey, I'm going to do this. So next time you have a big story, it's coming to me, right? We do see a bit of that, but Woj will put out such and such player is signing. This is the contract. This is how much this player is making. What we do is we then take that information that gives a little bit more, and then we blow that up and provide all of the content. Woj is going to say Team X is signing this player for this much money, right? And that's his job. Put out just the news. We're going to take that and we're going to project, right? We're going to make our own inferences from that information. Okay, this contract came in. Now this team can do this, this, and this. The impact on the league is this. Clearly, the team's thinking is they're going to be doing this on the floor. We take that and we provide context to all of that. And that's kind of our role in the media ecosystem, as it were. So you still need that piece between us and what we do and what so many other analysts around the league do and what the team is going to give you, because you need that extra information. And again, it's not just us who needs it, but it's also teams around the NBA, as Keith was saying, who needs that. So that's kind of the way all of this works and the way the system operates. And so somebody is going to, and maybe it's multiple people, but somebody is going to fill that role because it's a necessary piece. And again, I think there are going to be changes, because whoever comes in is not going to be exactly like Woj. I'm sure there's going to be different, and again, it may be multiple people. So I'm sure there'll be things that operate a little bit differently. It'll be interesting to see how things adapt moving forward. But this is an important position within the NBA. I mean, look, NBA communications, the league's communications put out a post congratulating Woj on it. Woj does not work for the NBA, but they put out a post congratulating him on his career. I mean, that just goes to show like how tethered Woj and the NBA are and how integral of a piece he is. And that's how you know something will come along to replace him.
Yeah, it's spot on. I mean, there'll be Shams for now will be the big one. We'll see. I'll reference him because he's good enough to have come on the show. But Jake Fisher is another one who's a great source of information. He certainly, I think, will be one of the people who help fill that void and go from there. But there's a lot of people: Mark Stein, Chris Haynes. Again, I don't want to start naming everybody because we're going to forget people. But a lot of people are out there, doing what they can, and and then you have some other people there, kind of they getting the breadcrumbs, like whatever's left over, right? Whatever the last bits are left over. But yeah, it's a major change to for everybody and how we're gonna consume basketball content in the transaction game. It's and not just transactions. Obviously, there are other stories he did too, about players and teams and the like. But it's this is a major change. And it'll be interesting to watch it all develop from here. And we'll clearly be all over it as the new newsbreakers emerge, I guess is the best way to put it.
All right. Well, we spent nearly the first 25 minutes of our show talking about what that just goes to show how much we care about all this
Yeah.
stuff and everything, which obviously we should. But Keith, do you want to complain about fashion with me for a little bit?
Let's do one more news story.
Okay.
Then we could close with
complaining about fashion. Okay.
On fashion. I can tell everybody right now, no big question today. We're not going to get to that. We will finish that series out over the course of the rest of the week here. But let's do this one real quick if we can.
Yeah.
Little bit of a bummer story here. Kenrich Williams had to have knee surgery. Let's say a big-ish part of the Thunder rotation. He had to have an arthroscopic debridement procedure on his right knee. Per the Thunder, it'll be reevaluated after the preseason. So that tells me we'll not be ready for opening night because that's reevaluated after the preseason. So hopefully that means some point maybe in the season's first month-ish of time. But yeah, Williams is still a pretty big part of the Thunder rotation, but we're going to see kind of where things shake out here with Alex Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein in the mix here. But one of their better backup forwards, maybe this opens the door a little bit for former lottery pick Ousmane Dieng or Dylan Jones, who was a first-round pick. Maybe they could kind of put themselves in the mix here to play a bit more for the Thunder while Williams is out. But just wanted to make sure we touched on that because it is an NBA rotation player who's not going to be ready for the start of the year.
Yeah, which is certainly not a good thing, but hopefully he's able to come back here midseason. We'll see how that all goes.
Yep. All right, let's play fashion critic here.
Let's complain about fashion. The NBA City Edition jerseys have leaked, and keep
this way because I can only turn left.
That's the way you should be. Yes, yeah. I love it. I love it. A Zoolander reference. Let's go. What is it? The files are in the computer. Oh man.
Dude, here's my first thought. I'm gonna jump out of order here.
Yeah.
One in the bottom left corner. Burn it with fire, and then bury the ashes. Set them on fire again. Salt the earth. I don't care. I never wanted that. That Celtics uniform is atrocious. That's not even the right green. Now, sometimes in these, the color is a little off, but I don't care. These look terrible. They just awful. I never want to see these. Hopefully these will be worn twice and I'll skip watching or something. I don't know.
That would be ideal because Keith, I think this is a rare occasion where Lakers fans and Celtics fans are completely aligned because we all hate our City Edition jerseys. I will say those are an absolute abomination. The Celtics ones, those are awful. And we'll get a chance to talk about the Lakers ones in a moment. But you take a historic franchise and you give them that looks like a practice jersey at best.
Yep.
At best.
Yeah.
I mean, what are we doing? Like that? Are we just out of ideas, or what is happening here? Because how did this get approved? Who saw this and said, yes, this is a good idea to put out this jersey?
There's been a lot of stuff on how much say the teams even actually have because of the contract with Nike on. Yeah, I'm sure if they did something really outrageous, the teams can veto. But yeah, here's my thing. One, it's just stop already. There's too many of these. We don't need a new one every single year. Now I get it. The Nike people are sitting there, looking at their finance reports and saying, yes, we do. Yes, we do. But I don't know, man. This is just some of these we've gone way too far. In this one in particular, people know my fondness for the Celtics. And for people who don't know, I'm going to give my little rant here. The green and white, the white and green, and occasionally the black and green, which took years to grow on me, that I now actually really like. And if they want to, on St. Patrick's Day, mix in the ones that they very rarely ever wear, which are the green with the gold tint from the 80s, fine. Anything else, we don't need them. the versions that looked like knockoffs of a Irish pub that somebody bought in a strip mall and named O'Brien's, and then it failed 2 years later. Like, get those out of here. The Bill Russell ones were fine. The ones he was involved with designing, I did like those, but those were really a version of the green ones. But just, their uniforms are so classic, so standard. Just stick with that. But all right, we can move on. I'll jump off the Celtics soapbox because I think it should be very clear by now. I don't like this jersey.
No, and nor should you. Nor should you. Celtics fans should not be happy with this jersey. But let me ask you this: aside from the Celtics one, just looking at the East right now, is there a jersey that you say I like that of these city editions?
I like the Magic ones. I think those are kind of sharp with the pinstripes. Yep. I like the Raptors one because I like the dinosaur.
That's
and
the
it's
one
Vince
for me.
Carter too.
Yep.
Like, I don't know if people even noticed that was like Vince Carter and that dinosaur like going through his legs, which is a lot of fun. The Wizards ones are okay to me. The Sixers ones are kind of like 80s throwback stylish. So I kind of like those ones. The Heat culture one enough. Like, good Lord, with this. The Knicks one just hurts my eyes. Like, I don't like it.
It makes me feel like I need glasses or something when I look at the next one.
And when they did that last year on TV, I literally 2 or 3 different times I was like, oh man, my TV's going. It's time for a new TV. The Bucks ones are okay. Here, go back to the first page. I don't mind Atlanta. Charlotte's are cool. Like, those are good. Yeah. Here's what I don't like about Charlotte's whole uniform vibe. Why do the pinstripes not run through the shorts too? Like, that's never. And you know what's funny is I complained about that a couple years ago. Somebody pointed out they never did. Even the original Hornets, they weren't on the shorts. Indies that's the carryover from the in-season tournament. That's
from the tournament.
I don't know what we're doing there. Pistons.
I don't mind the side stripe on it, but I the Indy logo I'm not a huge fan of.
Yeah.
You know what would be better is if you go Indy and then you put Indy, but in Indiana Jones lettering.
That'd be fun.
I don't know.
Maybe on that tip of the Y, there's like a little hat.
A little hat or something like that. I don't know
like
how Disney would feel about it.
That would be fun. The Bulls ones are okay. I know they have gold in like their history. Their Brooklyn's are fine for what they are, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. Just most of them kind of like, meh, I don't really care. But yeah, I hate the Celtics ones. Those ones are terrible. The Indy ones I'm not a fan of. Go back to the other page again one more time. The Knicks ones, the Heat ones, those are dumb. But yeah, probably the only 2 I actually I'm going to say 3. I really like. I like the Magic ones. I like the Sixers ones, and I really like the Raptors one just because I like the dinosaur.
We are completely aligned. Those are the 3 that I picked out as well. Like the 3 that I liked. I don't know why. Like the Sixers one isn't anything special, but I just think it's just simple and clean, and it just kind of works.
Yeah.
I think putting Heat culture on a jersey is not good. And yeah, I mean, that's just like, if you have to put it on the jersey, like, it's one thing to talk about, Heat culture and all that, but to actually put it on a jersey and make it like your slogan and this is what we're putting out there to everybody, like, come on, that's going overboard.
It's
but
propaganda at this point. Like, what are we doing?
Right.
Yeah,
all right.
Paragraphs in the paint. Like, yeah, and whatever.
Let's jump over to the West. God, we're out of ideas. All right, since we focused on your Celtics, the Lakers one. Why are we trying to make black and purple a thing? Why do we continue to try this? Where I joked earlier when I was talking about this on why are we still trying to make fetch happen? Yeah. And then to put Lake Show on the front and not Lakers, it makes it seem like it's a knockoff that doesn't have the rights to use the word Lakers.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. No, you're 100% right. That is absolutely right. Yep.
It's just, I don't know what they were thinking with that. I was, something that got brought up because I was talking about this earlier over on the basketball bulletin, though. How much better do any of these jerseys look with the numbers on them? Because that's one thing, like there's a lot of empty space on all these because we don't see the numbers on them right now. That will change the vibe of these jerseys. I'm not saying it suddenly makes them great, but that does change the overall look of the jersey. And right now, 100%.
The numbers and the names on the back. Like, what is the font? How big are they? here's the other thing too. Hand up. Somebody called it out in the comments on our last show that, my hairline's getting pretty thin. Yeah, no kidding. I fully recognize it. But it's the other thing that's going is my eyes, they're not getting better. I'm by no means like, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna be able to see. But like some of these teams, feels like the lettering is like this big, on their uniforms. It's like, who is that? And then they do the numbers that look scrunched, and it's like, wait, I can't tell what that number is. Like, it's weird. There was a set of Mavs jerseys a couple years ago where the 10, 11, and 12 all looked very similar to each other. And it was like, I can't tell all these guys apart very easily from when you're like on the like lifted sideline view. So yeah, let's see the letters and the numbers with them too. Of the ones we're shown here, there's only two that I even kind of like. I think Memphis is kind of cool with the
I've got one. Yep, it's Memphis.
And I don't mind the Mavs. It's just I think it looks a little washed out. The 5280, and then we're gonna put a number beneath it. Well, that's just gonna look like a mess. Like, what is the coloring there? Like, what are we doing? Like, yeah, I'm out on that one. The Clippers one looks stupid. Like, I don't like we just rebranded. Now we're going in a completely different direction for an alternate jersey.
I thought the Clippers thing, and I know they're going to use it elsewhere, but this was a great opportunity to use your logo again. Yeah. And make it and get people more and more associated with it, so people will stop reading Royal Caribbean every time they see the new Clippers logo. Like just putting that. And I know it's going to be on other jerseys and everything, but rather than put clips on it, use your logo, get your logo out there more, the new one, and make it more associated with your brand. I thought this was a missed opportunity for the Clippers.
Or just let's lean into it and put Clippy the paperclip from the old Microsoft Office programs.
I see you're writing a resume. Can I help you?
yeah. Put Clippy on there and put him on there.
I bet half the people watching or listening to this show right now don't know Clippy.
No, they're like, what are you idiots?
Because he's from
it was a dog too. Remember, you could change him to a dog.
Oh yeah. What was that? That was like. He has to have been gone for what, like a couple decades now or something, right?
Probably. Yeah. I mean, this was like the start of my like professional career, and that was a while ago. So yeah. And I guess Minnesota's are kind of okay. I don't know. I don't understand what's happening.
They went with like an ice theme.
Yeah.
Minnesota did.
Frozen over lake. Like, I'm not entirely sure. And I don't like white letters on white background either.
Yeah.
Like that's, yeah.
And then here we look at the second half of the West.
Much better
overall. I think the Kings one is a little plain for me. I thought they could have done more there. Utah, I think this is going to go back, or there's going to be something similar to this jersey becoming part of their regular rotation. I want to say
they shared them. We talked about it.
We talked about it.
Not this season. It's next season. Yeah.
Right. But once again, the Phoenix Suns stay winning the City Edition jerseys, in my opinion, because I love the Valley lettering, that it has that kind of old West aesthetic, because that's very much Phoenix. That's out in the desert, out in the Southwest. It's got that feel to it. And so I like that they leaned into that. It's not as good as the other Valley jerseys, the black ones that they've had. Those are great.
Those were really good. Yeah.
Those are really, really great. But compared to some of the other options, I think Phoenix did a solid job here.
Yeah, the Thunder ones, I don't love. My whole thing with the Thunder is it's time to let's really rebrand here, because we're in a spot with they're way too good of a team to have such a boring uniform set, color palette. Let's do something. We don't need to rebrand the team name. Thunder is fine. Let's just do something cool with that. There's a way you can make that cool. Am I the one to do it? No, absolutely not. But you could. San Antonio's are fine. Those are versions of ones they've worn in the past. I like the Portland ones. They just think it's kind of cool. I even kind of like the New Orleans ones. The pattern's a little funky on that one, but okay. I'm not against that. And then I actually kind of like the Kings one, because I like the simplicity with it. And I get it's throwback colors from former versions of the Kings. So, okay, sure. I also saw, just as a related aside, they're going to wear from their not the previous, meaning a couple years ago, playoff team, but like the Chris Webber playoff teams, they're going to wear those uniforms again for a handful of games, which that will also be fun. So yeah, these ones, this group of, what is this, 7 of them, better than any of the other 3 pages of stuff. Like these might be some of the best ones in the whole thing.
What is it? Is it just me? Is it my own bias coming into play, or is it fair to say the Lakers and the Celtics are the 2 worst?
Yeah, no, I think you might be right. They're pretty bad. Yeah. And it's also because you and I both prefer the traditional uniforms. And I think, maybe I'm wrong on this, but I think you and a lot of other Lakers fans have come around to the Sunday whites.
Oh yeah, because we're now decades into that.
Yeah,
so
I think people are now like, yeah, those are like, because I remember when those first came out, people were like, "What is this?
Yeah,
get these out of here!" Like I would say yellow, but like we wear gold at home, like that's what we wear, and then it took a long time for the black and green Celtics jerseys to get there for some people, but yeah, I think they have 2 of the best uniform sets in the entire sports world, not just the NBA, but the entire sports world. And then they keep doing stupid stuff with them. Like, I don't know, man. I feel old often. I don't know that I've ever felt older than this episode of Front Office Show. I feel like I'm gonna get up, my back's gonna crack, I'm gonna shuffle off to the couch.
But kid, we are far from the only ones, and we're far from the oldest ones. Sure. The youngsters, the young folks, they're complaining about these things too. So it is not just us, yelling at clouds or anything like that.
Do you know what is funny though? I did have somebody who was like, "Yeah, I hate it, but I'm gonna buy it." And it's
really,
like, that's like, why? You don't have to. Like, I know trust me, I'm a completionist. I get it. Like I was the like, man, that new G.I. Joe figure, he's kind of stupid. And I think that whole new character's dumb, but I need the whole set. Like I need to finish this year's line.
Right.
So like, I'm going to get him, like, but yeah, man, I don't know. I'm just like, yeah, like just pass for a year. You don't need
so for me, and this is just me, but I will wear jerseys occasionally. I'm a tank top guy. During the summer, I wear tank tops, but I don't wear a whole lot of jerseys. I will every now and then. So I don't actually buy a lot of jerseys, but what I do is every single year,
yes, we're old.
That's our level of humor. Yes.
Yeah.
What I do though is every year, because I love when the weather gets colder, wintertime, sweatshirts, sweatpants, all that kind of stuff. So I usually seek out the city edition version in a sweatshirt form. Right? They'll do that type of theme. And some of them have looked great. And have been fantastic. One of my favorite Lakers sweatshirts that I've got is the city edition from like 3 years ago. And so that's what I usually look for rather than a jersey itself. And so when you get something where when I see stuff like this and I'm like, man, none of these look all that good, especially the Lakers one looks bad, I'm just praying that whenever they convert it to being a sweatshirt or a t-shirt or whatever, there's a way to kind of that they tweak it, that they alter it just enough or something like that. Because I'm probably not going to buy the jersey. Again, I'm not a big like jersey wearer. But sweatshirts, I will. And so that's where the city edition stuff really comes into play for me. And I just hope that, in sweatshirt form or something, or at least in t-shirt form, these wind up looking a little bit better.
Yeah. And it's tough too, because often if you're having a great season, you want something from that season, right? That's gonna every time you see it or you wear it, you're gonna be reminded of that season. Yeah, you hope it's better than whatever this is. So yeah, I don't know, not a big fan.
No.
So there
nope. But you know what, Keith, we are also of the mindset. I'm pretty sure you're aligned with me with this anyway. Go back to a home jersey, an away jersey, and give me one alternate, and that's it. I don't know why we're doing this thing where you're wearing the wrong color on the road or whatever. Like, just why did we have to mess with that? It didn't make sense to me. And now you get these weird combinations that just don't look right. You're wearing a different colored jersey. Sometimes you're wearing the opponent's color on the opponent's court because your opponent went with a different color or whatever. It's weird. I wish we could just go back to the good old days back in my day, that type of thing. Back in the good old days when it was much simpler. You want to do an alternate jersey every year, you want to increase jersey sales, that's fine, but at least give us some stability in terms of home, away, all of that. Let's go.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you. I it just gets to be too much, and I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm losing my mind too, because there's times I turn on a game and I'm like, "Who's playing here?" And then I'm like, "Okay," or I'm like flipping around League Pass or whatever. Or then I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's their city jersey or what?" Can't even remember them all anymore, because there's like all these different names. But anyway, yeah. So, all right. Well, that'll be that until we actually see them. And then
and that's the other thing. I suppose we should finish with this. Like, for sometimes they do look better when the players are actually wearing them. I thought that was the case with the Lakers jerseys last year. I wasn't a big fan of the Lakers City Editions last year, and then once I saw them actually on the court, on the players, I'm like, okay, these look a bit better than they do when you're just seeing them kind of on their own like this. So maybe we can hold out hope that they won't look quite so bad once they're actually on the floor. Although in the case specifically of the Lakers and the Celtics, I'm not that optimistic that that's going to be the case. But nonetheless, it is what it is. Yep. Everybody, let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. You can gripe about the jerseys, talk to us about Woj, whatever you think. Give us your thoughts in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe to the NBA Front Office Show on YouTube, as well as over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hopefully no one's reading our You Googly anytime soon.
Oh, another Zoolander reference. I love it. I wish I had a quick one. All I keep thinking of is the gasoline fight. That was so bad.
I haven't seen that movie in a long time.
It's been
probably
a long
time for a rewatch.
It's been a long time. All right, everybody, thank you. I'm Trevor Lade. He's Keith Smith. He's so hot right now. Till next time.
He was talking loco, and I like it.
See ya. Stay safe.